Today, we're talking about boring stuff. And I mean, obviously, Elon Musk's secretive tunnel digging company, which drops us down a crazy rabbit hole into deep underground military bases. Also, that one time when a running app accidentally exposed secret CIA facilities around the world, and possibly even a secret base under the ice in Antarctica. Then, is Elon Musk lying about his entire identity all the way back to who really founded Tesla? Plus, a huge Israeli operative might have just been exposed in the UFO community. All that and more today on Candace. So the other day, I was digging into Elon Musk's boring company, the tunneling company he owns that most people don't know about. I brought that up way back when Candace and I first sat down for our first interview together, and we spoke briefly about it, and it's been on my mind ever since. But I finally sat down to dig into it, and it led me down so many rabbit holes. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of digging puns in this episode. Because the dig is deep and it's twisted, and we're going to take a lot of interesting detours and side quests, but trust me, by the end, it's going to paint quite the picture. So let's start where I started on Wikispooks. Wikispooks, if you're not familiar, is a wild ride. It's like Wikipedia for conspiracy theorists, and it's crowdsourced and probably not controlled by Mossad or the CIA yet. Although you should obviously always double check everything for yourself, especially on a place like Wikispooks. And the nice thing about Wikispooks is that it looks pretty low budget, and it constantly reminds you not to trust it as a primary source. But the other thing that I love about Wikispooks is that it is peppered with links to primary sources on all kinds of stuff, and some of them are pretty crazy. If you want to absolutely crush an afternoon, just go dig around in the 9/11 Wikispooks page. They've got a lot of gems hiding in there. So, anyways, I wound up on the Wikispooks page for deep underground military bases, and it had this section on the NDAA from 2013. Side note, Obama tacked on the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act to the 2013 NDAA, basically ensuring that it would pass, which it did. And that was when the US government officially legalized itself propagandizing the American people. Skylar, do we have the AP fact check pulled up that we can show everybody? Because it was pretty funny. So, obviously, AP knows what they're talking about. And if you wanted to know whether it was legal to propagandize US citizens, AP's got your back. Because the claim is that Obama signed into law this thing that will allow the government to propagandize American citizens. But AP's assessment is that's false. In 2013, Obama signed legislation that changed the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948, also known as the Smith-Mundt Act. The amendment made it possible for some materials created by the U.S. Agency for Global Media, the nation's foreign broadcasting agency, to be disseminated in the U.S. So, false. They're not propagandizing you, but they're just sharing a little titsy-bitsy of propaganda with you, obviously. And if you're not familiar with the NDAA, by the way, it's the National Defense Authorization Act, which is basically the annual budget bill for the Department of Defense, hence why it was guaranteed to pass, more or less. And this is a good place to start us off, because the first thing you should always do is double check your source. So in this case, I was able to follow Wikispooks links and search the page for the text to find that this same information is verifiable on sites like govtrack.us. And this does appear to be actual text from the NDAA in 2013. And I'm not surprised by this, because the military takes underground military facilities and capabilities very seriously. This specific example is basically an order to STRATCOM, Strategic Command, to find out what secret underground military facilities and capabilities China has and figure out how hard it would be to nuke them if we wanted to, which is a kind of uncomfortable scenario to consider if you think it through for just a few minutes. But anyways, underground military bases are not new. This is a 1953 CIA report that was declassified in 2003, detailing how the Soviet Union had taken control of and was rebuilding Nazi underground military base infrastructure in Rastenburg, which is northeast Poland, after World War II. When the Germans retreated from East Prussia in 1945, the German army headquarters at Rastenburg was left intact. It is claimed that the advancing Red Army scarcely noticed anything special about this region where the, quote, brain of the German army was located during the war. Seen from the surface, it was only an area of lakes and forests which covered the gigantic underground city measuring 38 kilometers long and 3 to 5 kilometers wide. The region is crossed by the railroad, which runs from Kaliningrad to Bialystok. The underground military city is equipped with a communication system which is completely electrified. There are 3 electric power plants which function independently of each other, and water tanks and a water system supplying the underground shelters, barracks, officers' quarters, and the luxurious staff rooms. All parts of the headquarters are connected by telephone and also by a pneumatic dispatch tube system. There are also large military warehouses and garages and underground hangars, all at a depth of at least 30 meters below the surface. It's pretty wild to think back to civilian technology in the 1940s when this stuff was being constructed during wartime, mind you, and think about how vastly different the resources and technology available to a nation's military are from those available to their citizens. I'm just going to read a little bit of this one. Same document. Excerpt from it says, "It took the Germans 6 years to construct this military city, the best camouflaged underground city in the world. Hitler stayed there much of the time during the Russian campaign. The headquarters had direct wire connections with Berlin, a very powerful radio station, and a radar system. There are a number of airfields scattered around the area which are connected with the actual headquarters by underground passageways. The rest of the page describes how the German mines that they left to protect the site were eventually cleared and the sites captured by the Soviets." Now, it's pretty easy to start going down crazy rabbit holes of Nazis escaping to Argentina and Antarctica, hiding underground, and all that jazz. Most history textbooks like to gloss over that a whole bunch of them just came to America, hosted by the CIA, and then were instrumental in things like our biological and chemical weapons programs, our mind control experiments, and NASA. Our space program was founded by one of the lead Nazi rocket scientists, Wernher von Braun. And we'll come back to a neat tidbit about him a little later. But the crazy thing is that the underground bases in Antarctica tinfoil isn't just tinfoil. Maybe. Now, I don't know about secret Nazi bases in Antarctica, but I do know about that one time when Strava accidentally showed the locations of secret bases all around the world. So, time for our first crazy detour. This is a true story. Back in 2017, when Strava launched their heat map feature, American soldiers and operatives accidentally broadcast the exact layout of secret bases online to Strava, one of the most popular running apps. You see, Strava has this feature where as you record your runs through your watch or your telephone or whatever, it stores that GPS data and then it anonymously uploads it to their global heat map, which shows where we all run and how much traffic different routes get. It's actually incredibly cool and super useful. For example, I spent the last couple months living in Austin, Texas, and I would use the Strava heat map to look around for trails and cool places to run. The brighter the line, the more people run there. It's a great way to find fun adventures. Also, apparently, an all right way to find secret military bases hidden all around the world. I guess when you're stationed to a top secret base, there's probably not a whole lot to do, and you probably aren't allowed to just go off base for a jog in your spare time. So, people were logging their runs and walks on base, not realizing that it would upload to the global heat map. This is coming from The Guardian. In Syria, known coalition, i.e. U.S. bases, light up the night, writes an analyst Tobias Schneider. Some light markers over known Russian positions, no notable coloring for Iranian bases. A lot of people are going to have to sit through lectures come Monday morning. In locations like Afghanistan, Djibouti, and Syria, the users of Strava seem to be almost exclusively foreign military personnel, meaning that bases stand out brightly. In Helmand province, Afghanistan, for instance, the locations of forward operating bases can be clearly seen, glowing white against the black map, because all the Afghanis and all the people over there are not using Strava. And so the places where Westerners are stationed and are recording their movements are very easy to spot. And now, these bases probably weren't exactly secret, but it's still pretty awkward. We're just publishing a roadmap of all of our forward bases for anyone that wants to just browse through. But then, the internet completely lost its mind when someone found this weird data in Antarctica shaped like a trapezoid on the heat map. Conspiracy boards on Reddit gobbled it up and started cooking up all kinds of crazy theories. And from a distance, it appears to just be in some random location in Antarctica. You zoom in, and you see that there's some sort of research station there, but theories about an underground base started to spread. And although there may be underground bases in Antarctica, eventually cooler heads prevailed when someone realized that that's where they host the Antarctic Ice Marathon, which is still pretty wild. Those people are their own kind of crazy, but it's not a secret Nazi UFO base. And although the Strava data did yield some likely candidates for secret CIA bases abroad where they technically were not supposed to be at the time, a lot of popular underground base theories came up empty-handed. No secret tunnels lit up the Denver airport. No secret tunnels linked the Getty Museum to billionaire mansions in Hollywood, at least not on Strava. And that should be expected because you can't record your GPS data from underground. So obviously we weren't exactly expecting Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama to record their secret walks to and from a hot dog and a pizza party. But there is evidence that sketchy stuff is going on underground. For example, the Finders cult is an enduring mystery that would take an entire episode to dig into. But in short, a preschool was found to have a whole tunnel system underneath it, links to satanic ritual abuse, and then direct links to CIA involvement came out. And that's when it all got covered up and labeled conspiracy. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Then there is the more recent scandal at Chabad Lubavitch in New York, one of the biggest synagogues of one of the most prominent sects of ultra-Orthodox Judaism, where it was revealed that they had dug tunnels and rooms into the ground underneath the building. The official story is that it was just a bunch of pesky kids trying to expand the synagogue. This sect, I would mention, is what I can only describe as a textbook cult. And none of us will ever forget the stained child-sized mattress that was pulled from the tunnel in all the mayhem. I think we all have some questions, but not a lot of answers. Those are just a few of the spicier scandals involving tunnels lately. But all you need to do is go to the Wikipedia page titled Underground City, and you'll immediately see why there are so many tunnel conspiracy theories. The first photo on the page is a reference to Crystal City, Virginia, which I couldn't help but notice is just a few miles from downtown DC. So I obviously had to click on that. I'm just going to read from the Wikipedia page a little bit here for you. Quote, Crystal City includes several aerospace manufacturing and defense industry companies, public sector consulting firms, government contractors, the U.S. Department of Labor, the U.S. Marshal Service, satellite offices for the Pentagon, and various nonprofit organizations. Interesting. Go figure. All the defense contractors, consulting firms, and government agency buildings are sitting on top of a massive tunnel network. There's obviously a similar, probably far more robust tunnel network underneath DC proper. Seriously, the Wikipedia page for Underground City is this long. And that's just what's on Wikipedia. It goes on and on, describing tunnels all over the world, underneath all kinds of cities, and it's got all kinds of links. And I would invite you to go check it out and just do a little digging, so to speak. So I just had to laugh, though, where it tells us about the tunnels underneath Richmond, Virginia. And then it says, quote, the purpose of the tunnels is not generally known. Okay, whatever, guys. Dig into this stuff deep enough, and you'll wind up at that one time back in the 70s when the US government patented a nuclear tunnel boring machine. Here is that patent filed on behalf of the US Atomic Energy Commission. But the official story is that the project never got off the ground and was transferred between agencies before being buried and retired. And who knows? Maybe that is what happened. But one thing is for sure. Something has been digging all this underground infrastructure. And we all know that if this is what they're telling us about, Lord knows that they aren't telling us about other things. And in a moment, we're going to go into Elon Musk and his involvement in this whole story. But first, a quick break. Now, I want to take a second to tell you about CBDistillery. If you're still tossing and turning all night and feeling edgy during the day, let me tell you about CBD from CBDistillery. Millions are turning to their CBD for relief because it works. In fact, over 90% of customers report better daily function with CBD. My friends over at CBDistillery offer targeted formulations for just about everything: stress, mood and focus, pain after exercise. They even have CBD for pets. And it's all made with the highest quality, clean ingredients. No fillers, just premium CBD. CBDistillery offers relief in a variety of ways. Members of my team love their isolate CBD relief sticks to target specific pain points. And with over 2 million satisfied customers and a 100% money-back guarantee, CBDistillery is the source to trust. If you're struggling with sleep, stress, or other health concerns and haven't found relief, make the change, like millions are, to CBD from CBDistillery. And for a limited time, you can save 25% off your entire purchase. Visit CBDistillery and use promo code Candace. That's CBDistillery.com, promo code Candace. CBDistillery.com. Specific product availability depends on individual state regulations. I also want to tell you about The Little Catholic. It's time to upgrade your Catholic jewelry collection. If you love beautiful, meaningful pieces, you need to check out The Little Catholic, the #1 place in America for handmade Catholic jewelry. The Little Catholic is a family-owned business, creating the most stunning, ethically handmade Catholic jewelry right here in the U.S. From miraculous medals and Sacred Heart jewelry to their iconic patented Holy Family Hearts collection. Every piece is designed to last for generations, crafted in sterling silver and solid 14-karat gold to reflect the beauty of the Catholic faith. What I love most about The Little Catholic is their commitment to ethical craftsmanship. Every piece is made to be worn daily, treasured, and passed down, a constant, tangible reminder of the faith. Between First Communions, confirmations, and wedding season, now is the perfect time to find a meaningful gift. Head to thelittlecatholic.com and use code Candace25 for 25% off your order. That's thelittlecatholic.com with promo code Candace25 for handmade Catholic jewelry that lasts. And now let's talk about Elon Musk. Because one of his least talked about companies is called The Boring Company. And he's got big plans for building underground infrastructure all over the world. He has since raised money from his PayPal boys, Peter Thiel and Joe Lonsdale, in other words, Palantir. And although certainly there are a lot of legitimate reasons why better tunnel digging technology could make the world better for all of us, I could think of lots of reasons why these defense industry aligned folks might have other things in mind. I don't know of any secret government contracts held by The Boring Company right now, but let's just say that if he doesn't already have them, you can bet that he will soon. But while we're on the topic of Elon Musk, I spoke with Candace a few weeks back about Elon Musk's gaming scandal and the implications of it. Now, I haven't played any video games in like nearly a decade, so I thought I'd take it over to a dude who knows what he's talking about and let YouTuber Quinn69TV get us started.
Elon Musk's character is currently level 97, aka rank 12 on hardcore, that's permanent death mode, Trade League. Let me try to give you a quick understanding as to how hard it is to get to that level. 2 weeks into the league, when people are playing the game, literally they're staying up 40 to 50 hours without sleeping, only playing Path of Exile, and they are the most try-hard guys in the world. His bags are full, and he just keeps clicking it over and over and over again. Nobody, not even people who are kind of noobs at the game, do this. I don't even think Elon Musk has done the campaign, honestly, like just based on what I'm seeing in terms of the gameplay. His settings on the map transparency are turned on by default. His life values are turned on. All these basic settings that anyone in the top 100 would do, he is not doing. And if you needed any more proof that Elon is 100% boosted, he was playing the game today inside of maps, blasting, while simultaneously on a X space talking to like some far right wing part of some German government. I don't know, some political bullshit. Okay, I guess he's just that much of a god gamer.
So at this point, as of today, he has confessed to paying people to level up and play his characters for him. And don't worry, we're not going to nerd out super hard here on this, but we're just going to skim the surface for a minute to inspire some questions. But before we get into this, it's important to remember, he was bragging at least, on the largest platforms in the world. No mention whatsoever that he cheated to level up his characters. He claimed to be one of the top players in 2 of the hardest and most competitive video games out there, Diablo 4 and Path of Exile 2, on shows like Joe Rogan and Lex Fridman and others. But then, during Trump's inauguration, Elon Musk's character was online, pretty much confirming what everyone was already suspecting. He eventually did admit, sort of through a private chat, that he gave permission to be released through a friendly gaming YouTuber that painted it in a pretty good light, that he had paid people to play and level up his characters for him. And he gave excuses that all the players in Asia do it. So if you want to beat them, then you have to do it too. And okay, bro, that's cool. But that's not what you claimed on the largest platforms in the world. The YouTube channel Upper Echelon did a pretty brutal but thorough breakdown of the whole thing if you want more details. And he posed a really interesting theory that Elon Musk got super clowned on prior to this scandal when he started posting about his play of the game Elden Ring online. Like his character build, meaning the power-ups and items and armor and stuff that he used was so bad that it became a meme. People started making videos about beating the game with the Elon build. Videos clowning on his build got millions of views. It was a lot. And Upper Echelon suggests the theory that maybe the trolling was so intense during this time 2 years ago that he later cheated to level up his characters as some sort of psychological comeback at all the nerds that had made fun of him. And obviously, that's just a theory. But it's a pretty compelling one. It becomes more compelling when you remember that bro didn't found Tesla, his flagship company. This is something of a pattern for him. He has someone else build something out. Then he buys it from them and takes credit for it without exactly openly discussing the whole truth. Elon Musk was just the bankroll. For the first 4 years of Tesla, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning were the guys who had founded Tesla, until Musk ousted Martin and fired him in 2007. And nowadays, Elon Musk founded Tesla. He doesn't tend to say he invented Tesla or directly claim it was all him. He tends to say things like, back when we founded Tesla. But he certainly doesn't mention Eberhard, ever. But from Eberhard's perspective, I quote, Elon is a different person now than he was then. He was no more involved than any other board member. He came to board meetings. He did not have an office at the company. He didn't come there regularly. He did not give direction to my employees, anything like that. He was a board member. So, what changed to make Musk the hands-on CEO that he is today? Well, according to Eberhard, everything changed when Tesla started to get attention from the press. Quote, his behavior changed dramatically as soon as we started having press about Tesla. He got mad if anything was ever written about Tesla and it didn't feature his name prominently. And that's when I realized that there was an ego involved here that I had not recognized before. Eberhard used to have the nickname Mr. Tesla. And he said that anytime Musk wasn't mentioned in an article about the company, he would call and scream at Eberhard. Now, that sounds like the kind of guy that would get butthurt about gamers making fun of him and cheat to level up to be one of the best. In fact, that starts to align quite well with Musk's apparently abusive but extremely wealthy childhood, his problems with his father, and his apparent insatiable drive for success and recognition today. Eventually, after a defamation lawsuit and settlement, Musk purchased the right to call himself a founder of Tesla, and Eberhard presumably took a pretty payout and agreed to never disparage Elon Musk again. But then, on the other hand, it's not as simple as flipping your opinion and hating Elon Musk as an eternal fraudster, right? He did pour all of his money into Tesla when success was not certain, and then again with SpaceX, which he did found. He bet the farm on SpaceX when his first 3 rocket launches failed, and both SpaceX and Tesla were on the verge of bankruptcy. And it's actually a pretty wild story. And it's hard not to respect the guy for the sheer tenacity of it all, even if a lot of it was just money. But I guess the point here is that they're both stories, and there's always more than one side of a story. And when Elon tells them he's the hero, he was up against all odds, and he narrowly snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. When other people tell it, you see other sides of the story that Elon seems to have conveniently left out. My point is not to say that Elon is always a liar, but rather to show that Elon is willing to bend the truth to meet the demands of his ego, his image, and his larger goal. And you should be careful of a man with a hero complex that large, who we know has lied in the past over something as insubstantial as his prowess at a video game. We'll have to do another dig another day about the Nazi rocket scientist Wernher von Braun, who wrote this book in 1953 about a man named Elon that colonized Mars. But first, let's take a quick break to tell you about our sponsor. We're all feeling it. Inflation is eating away at everything: gas, groceries, home repairs. And if you're a homeowner, you've probably thought, should I call American Financing to refinance and pay off this credit card debt? Then you second guess yourself because of that low mortgage rate you currently have. Listen, that low rate, it's not saving you if you're drowning in credit card interest at 25% or more. That's the math that no one wants to face, but it's costing you thousands. Here's the truth. If you're only making minimum payments, that debt will follow you for years. That's why people are calling American Financing, because they're saving customers an average of $800 a month by using their equity to finally break free from credit card debt. You owe it to your family to see what's possible. No upfront fees, no pressure. It costs you nothing to find out what you could save every month. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Call American Financing today, 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. So now, speaking of rocket ships and people lying, let's talk about UFOs. Now, I know that a lot of you probably never think about UFOs, and people that do all have wildly different opinions and takes. It's interesting, but also it feels at least a little bit like a psyop. It's dizzying to keep up with all the drama in the UFO community, and without Candace around to give it the Blake Lively treatment, it's largely the Wild West of conspiracy theories as far as I'm concerned. But just recently, a content creator called Museum of Tarot exposed one of the largest and longest standing UFO influencers to potentially be an Israeli plant. Stephen Greer. If you're not familiar with this dude, he spent the last 30 years collecting every whistleblower under the sun and compiling their testimony, and allegedly running around briefing presidents and CIA directors, etc., about the threat of UFOs and the secret government reverse engineering programs. Some of his claims are believable, and some of them are completely ridiculous, like the time he claimed to have an alien body that turned out to be the bones of a deformed human child. So, a couple of months ago, Brent, Museum of Tarot, went on my friend Danny Jones's podcast and dropped a bomb on Stephen Greer's career. He brought documentation that he had dug up that seemed to imply that Stephen Greer had a long-lost secret history with Israel that he never seems to mention anymore. Let's watch this clip.
The bridegroom is the son of Mr. and Mrs. James Greer of 1201 Princeton Avenue. He attended the Appalachian State University and is employed in the Information Processing Department at Baha'i World Center. After a trip through Israel, the couple will live in Haifa and work at the Baha'i World Center.
That's the original marriage notice. Baha'i was regarded as an intelligence gathering operation for Mossad.
And Stephen Greer worked for these people.
And he worked for them. He started with those people. Then he got
This is
funded
before he was an emergency room doctor?
You know, I've done a lot of research on Stephen Greer. I don't want to make any claims that get me in any kind of trouble about Stephen Greer, but it doesn't look to me like he had enough time to even do medical school and a residency. And certainly the old newspaper articles don't refer to him as Dr. Greer. It's like he goes right into UFO stuff. So if he worked, there's indication he worked for a very short time at a small hospital in western North Carolina and then went directly into shilling UFOs for Rockefeller.
Holy shit.
Danny Jones has talked to a lot of wild people and heard a lot of wild claims. And that pause of just what the kills me. But it's always important to double check your sources. It's always important to try to corroborate things for yourself. And so I was able to dig up and corroborate the newspaper clipping that Brent references independently online, all on my own. It is pulled from the Charlotte Observer, published on Thursday, October 30th, 1979. And it says what Danny read on screen. I'll just read a little bit from it right now. Quote, Haifa, Israel. Emily Kramer and Stephen Greer were married Saturday at Baha'i World Center. Further down it says, the bridegroom is the son of Mr. and Mrs. James Greer of 1201 Princeton Avenue. He attended Appalachian State University and is employed in the Information Processing Department at Baha'i World Center. After a trip through Israel, the couple will live in Haifa and work at Baha'i World Center. Now, this is interesting for a number of reasons. First, The photo included is clearly identifiable as being the correct Stephen Greer, even though he's much younger, aside from all the other corroboration as far as where, when, names, etc. So as Brent points out, Greer never seems to mention Israel all that much these days. And this is right at the age where one would be recruited as an intelligence asset. It also is immediately before he goes out into the world and starts to become the man that the UFO community knows today. Also, an interesting rabbit hole on Baha'i. Baha'i is sort of a universal faith that plays into all religions and has practitioners all around the globe. I'm not familiar with any of the nuances of their beliefs or practices. Brent says Baha'i was widely considered to be an intelligence gathering operation for Mossad. And now, I haven't done the full dive on Baha'i by any means, but Iran certainly thinks that Baha'i is an intelligence operation for Mossad and the CIA. In 2014, there are a small handful of articles referencing claims made by Ahmad Saleh, chairman of Iran's Parliamentary Cultural Commission. And he said, quote, "I declare very explicitly that Baha'ism is an espionage organization which gathers intelligence for the CIA and Mossad, and there are abundant documents to prove this." Now, there is a small handful of Western publications mocking this assertion, which really doesn't give you much to go on. If Baha'ism isn't an intelligence gathering operation, then the CIA and Mossad are definitely missing out on a convenient opportunity, though, as global groups like niche religions make great espionage covers, Scientology. That being said, maybe Iran just doesn't like the Baha'i, just as they don't like all the other religions. Who knows? Brent also presented Danny with an op-ed piece written by Greer in the late 80s that seems to imply that Stephen Greer may also be secretly gay. Skylar was able to dig that one up too, and it is a real piece published in the Asheville Citizen on Friday, October 16th, 1987. It says, in part, I'm just going to read a little bit of it, quote, "We feel that the struggle for our civil rights as gay and lesbian citizens is intricately linked to all struggles against racism, sexism, and anti-Semitism in this country and worldwide." Later on it says, quote, "Gay and lesbian Americans are everywhere and among everyone. We have fought and died for this country. We are its doctors and nurses, artists and activists, construction workers and social workers, and we are, for the time being, most affected by the AIDS epidemic in the United States." So, Brent makes it very clear that he has nothing against gay people, just that the double life of a closeted gay person is concerning when we're talking about the top representative of the UFO disclosure community who is allegedly briefing presidents and CIA directors on the topic, especially when he has links to Israel that just never seem to come up. It all seems a little fishy. Now, within this article, we don't have a photo to confirm that it's the right Stephen Greer, but we do have a middle initial, he is a doctor, and there's a connection to Asheville. The Stephen Greer we are talking about matches all of those criteria, so it doesn't seem likely that we're matching this to the wrong Greer. And if it is the same Greer, then it's interesting that he was married in Israel back in the 70s to a woman, and then referring to himself as a gay man in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? So, altogether, the UFO disclosure corner of the internet is a wild place. And it's an absolute cluster of ex-spooks, current spooks, suspicious characters, dubious stories, and wild claims. Some of them may be legit. Some are most definitely running some sort of hidden agenda. There's really not a lot of clear answers of who is which. And ultimately, it's a cautionary tale to remind us all to think critically. Personally, my favorite evidence for UFOs comes from the telepathy tapes and CIA remote viewing programs. And often, Christians will take this whole topic to be an affront to God. And I argue, not at all. Humans used to think that God's creation was only the Eurasian and African continents. You would be a blasphemer to think differently. God's creation never used to include guns and planes and computers. Ultimately, God's creation is everything. And anything that we observe and see proof of is a part of that design. And to me, one of the most fascinating questions always lurking in the dark corners of every conspiracy convention is aliens. Is there proof? Are they here? And what on earth is really going on? I only know two things about aliens for sure. First, that we don't know for sure. And second, don't trust the government. That's our show for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out, subscribe to Candace's channel. I also really appreciate it if you click the link in the description that'll go to my channel, Ian Carroll's Show, and subscribe over there too if you've been enjoying the way that I share evidence and sass and just ultimately encourage everyone to think for themselves. Candace is out with baby Rowan for probably another week or two, but we'll be sure to bring you updates. And so for now, drink your water, love your family, do something nice for someone, and we'll see you tomorrow.